So I'm actually going to keep this video very brief because everything has already been said about this DLC. It's been out for a week now, and I actually finished it a day or two after it came out, already 100%ed it. But I just felt the need to make a video on it because it's that good, and for the first time ever, I feel like I scammed the developers. Why do I say that? It's because the DLC is completely free. And if there would have been a $20 price tag, I would have gladly spent it. Because this DLC not only offers more of that amazing God of War gameplay, it actually adds to the story. And most importantly, because it is a roguelite, adds an insane amount of replay value. There is a, spoiler alert, new skin for Kratos. You could get to use the younger Kratos look, and it's fucking amazing. You can replay the entire story with that. You actually get a new rage ability, which is the Blade of Olympus, which is really cool. Anyways, let me talk about what this is and the story of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla and how it continues and fully cements the fact that Kratos has, in fact, come full circle. Like I mentioned before, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is a roguelike game mode separate from the main story, taking place after the events of the main story. And let's talk about the gameplay first. So every run is going to be different. You get to use different abilities every run. You get to keep some of your points from when you die in the run to upgrade yourself. And every time you do die, you return on the beach and you got to restart. Now, the point of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is that Kratos gets an invite, like I'm talking about PlayStation invites, holy fuck. He gets an invitation from Tyr, the god of war of these realms, the Norse realm, to go to Valhalla. Now, the only reason Kratos is able to go is because he had died once. He had died multiple times, but you get what I'm saying. And Tyr technically had died once, and that's why he's able to go. So Kratos goes, and he learns that going through Valhalla and essentially going through his past to ultimately forgive himself, because that is the last thing he needs to do, is going to be tough. So it tells the story through the gameplay. And what I mean by that is every time he dies, he and the player learn something from it to go back into the trials and be better at it and face it head on, learning or taking everything you learned from your past run and defeating your challenge. Now, telling the story through the gameplay is something that's very rare these days in gaming, and I'm happy that it was done in this DLC. Now, this is kind of like the Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty DLC. This is the fully gameplay and combat related DLC where there's not much cutscenes. It's just go in, combat, fucking try hard and shit, right? And because of that, because there was so much combat, I actually noticed a flaw. And what this flaw is because the camera is so close to the shoulder, it's a very like close up and personal camera angle that they decided to take for this game in God of War 2018. When you're doing combat, it's super hard to tell if someone is behind you. So what they do is they put that yellow and red triangle to let you know if someone's behind you, and you could quickly turn around, maybe shield, parry them, whatever. But if you play the main game, you know that the triangles don't mean shit. You just have to look at the enemy, look at their movement, see when exactly they're about to hit you to parry, which is why they added the ability in the options to remove the colored triangles. Now, why is that an issue? That isn't really an issue. The issue is that the camera is so close that it's really hard to tell your surroundings. And this is when I realized that the camera angle for the old God of War games is ultimately better. Because you can't see shit sometimes. Especially that this is a action-packed, non-stop, combat-related DLC. Knowing your surroundings is super useful. Now, for this next part, I'm just going to briefly go over the story. And basically what this story is about. Like I said before, Kratos gets an invitation from Tyr to go to Valhalla and essentially confront his past. Now, why he goes there and why Tyr invites him is because Tyr and Freya want him to be the god of war of these realms. Now, Kratos does not want that title because of what happened the last time in Greece. Rightfully so, right? So what he does, like I said before, he goes through Valhalla, pretty much experiences his past and experiences his view of the 9 realms, because that's how Valhalla works. And goes through combat trials, talks with Mimir, opens up to Mimir a lot more than in Ragnarok. Now, the reason he opens up to Mimir in Ragnarok is because he knows he's gonna die, and he doesn't want to go out like how he was in God of War 2018, being completely silent. He wants to open up and be like, you know what, I'm about to die. Let me just talk to these guys and form a little bit of connections before I go out. So in Valhalla, you get essentially the same thing, minus Atreus. So he's with Mimir, and so because he's with Mimir on this journey, he is not afraid to talk about some of the most fucked up things he had done in Greece. Because if you know anything about Mimir in the God of War world, he essentially worked for Odin and has done some pretty fucked up things for him. Now, granted, Mimir also tried to broke peace with a lot of the other races, but for the most part, he worked under Odin and enslaved animals and used their fat to make oil and shit. That was all a side quest in Svartalfheim in the base game. So what Kratos does is he speaks with Mimir and essentially opens up fully to him, talking to him about his daughter, how he killed her, and his wife, and how he murdered innocent people, like the boat captain from God of War 1, and how he brutally murdered Helios. And Mimir at one point turns into Helios when you enter when you enter Valhalla's version of Greece, how Kratos remembers Greece. So you enter that section, you notice on your hip that Mimir had turned into Helios' head. Now, if you play God of War 3, you know Helios' head was a weapon. It would stun the enemies, and you would be able to like hit them or whatever. It's kind of like the there's a relic ability in God of War Ragnarok, the base game, that turns Mimir's head into pretty much the same thing, but it shoots Bifrost out of his head. It's kind of like that in God of War 3. Is pretty cool. Anyways, Kratos fully admits that he killed Helios in a extremely fucked up way and feels bad for it. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the whole point of this DLC story specifically is that Kratos has he's done everything right. He saved another realm instead of destroyed it. He taught Atreus to open up your heart, right, instead of close your heart, and be who you're supposed to be and do not what is written but what is necessary. And he had taught Atreus that all because of what Faye had taught him and what Faye instilled to him when he came to the Norse lands. He fully forgot or just put aside the fact that he killed his daughter. And what this DLC is, like I said before, is Kratos coming full circle, and the last thing he needs to do is forgive himself. Now, his old self is personified literally as his old self on the throne, who you see after fighting Tyr 4 times. Now, every time you fight Tyr, he uses a different weapon from a different land. Why does he do this? Well, it's because we know from God of War 2018, we know from Tyr's temple, that he had traveled to different countries. He had a vase with Kratos on it. He had, like a Sphinx helmet that Atreus was wearing, I believe. So every time you fight Tyr, he uses a new weapon from different lands. He used a katana at one point. He used a spear and a Spartan shield. He uses something from the Norse realm, something like dual scimitars from what I presume is like ancient Egypt or whatever. And once you defeat Tyr 4 times, he tells you something about yourself that you don't want to hear as Kratos, until you defeat him the last time and you open the doors to fully confront your past and to attempt to forgive yourself. You open the doors and you see young Kratos. and Kratos sees him and pretty much admits that everything he did was of his own volition as his younger self, and it was fucked up, but it's never too late to change. And why can Kratos change? Well, it's because he unleashed hope into the world at the end of God of War 3. And because of that hope, he has now fully embraced it and is most likely going to become the god of hope of these realms. Now, does that mean he will reject the offer of God of War and Tyr will remain God of War and Kratos will be God of Hope? Whatever that means, who knows? They've admitted that there is another DLC, probably going to be focused on Atreus. We'll probably find that out then. Now, when Kratos opens the doors and confronts his younger self, who doesn't say a word, by the way, and doesn't really need to, his younger self sitting on the throne says enough. And it certainly says enough to Kratos, to the point where he genuinely feels disgusting and might I even say frightened of his younger self. So much to the point where it makes him realize all these things about himself, that he was always more than what others saw. Clearly was, considering everything he's done in the Norse realms. Now, to some, this DLC and its story might come as a desperate attempt to fix and repair Kratos' fucked up past. I can see why you think that, but at the same time, giving Kratos more grounded feelings, more than just rage that he felt in the original games, was always the necessary direction this franchise needed to take. And having this DLC story be Kratos essentially trying to forgive himself for everything he did in the past is the necessary conclusion we need to his story. Because something like everything he did in Greece can't just be unsaid and forgotten. He needs to address it, and you can't just leave it be. Now, them addressing it in this fashion is the best way to do it. Like I said before, this may come across as a desperate attempt to fix Kratos' past, but you can't fix it. The whole point of this story is that you can't fix it. What you could do is learn from it and grow from it. And that's what Kratos does. He realizes, like I said before, that he basically has the power of hope, and he's going to fully embrace that, and most likely going to take the throne as God of Hope, whatever that means. So, in the end, this is a DLC I would have gladly spent upwards of $20 on, but it ended up being free. Like, what the fuck? That's just wild to me. There is so much replay value in this. This DLC is better than most full-price games, honestly. And I'm even more excited for further DLC. I'm happy they pretty much admitted to it. Even if it is Atreus starring, I don't care, because the direction they're going with this story and the directions they've gone are incredible and really worth your time. Now, this DLC proved to me that they might be done with Kratos' character. He says that he wants to sit on the throne for a while. That tells me that the next DLC will be with Atreus, and the next couple of games will be with him. And I'm fine with that. I just hope that we get to see something with Atreus. Something that something that needs to happen with his character is he needs to go through a hardship. He needs to fuck up in a way. Because right now, at this point in time, he is a perfect character. Now, the reason we all fell in love with Kratos' character is because he's not perfect. He's fucked up. And we got to see his redemption arc. Atreus right now is a perfect character. I just hope that in the next installment of the games, or in the next DLC starring Atreus, he needs to do something bad and going forward needs to redeem himself. That's the direction they need to take with Atreus. Don't make him a perfect character. That's all I ask for. Thank you, Santa Monica, for making this DLC free. This is maybe one of the best Christmas gifts I've ever gotten. Honestly, I'm viewing it as a Christmas gift. And yeah, definitely go play it if you have this game and you want more out of it. Thank you.